young people. It's a real pleasure to be here, to come together to talk about one of the most wonderful subjects, of course, for all of us, that is the hope of Israel. To talk about the Jewish people, and particularly the Jewish people in the land of Israel over the last year, and more particularly over the last couple of months. And what we want to look at is seeing how Israel is fulfilling Bible prophecy. And more particularly, we're choosing Ezekiel chapter 38 because we know it so well. And we know what it says about Israel, and so we can identify clearly those key points that we expect Israel to be fulfilling. Well, first, brethren and sisters, the subject that we're talking about, that should have been there, is Israel, a haven of peace in a lake of fire. But brethren and sisters, where is our hope? We know these quotes probably fairly well. What our attitude should be to the Jewish people. What does the Bible say about them? They are beloved of Yahweh. They are loved of Yahweh. They are His holy people. They are the apple of His eye. They are His peculiar treasure. Yes, brethren and sisters, they are a people that we should love and be delighted in. And we should remember the words of the Apostle Paul from Romans 11. And he in Romans 11 said, now look, brethren and sisters, remember what Israel did in the days of Christ. He said, don't be like them. Now if some of the branches were broken off, and you, a wild olive tree, were grafted in among them, and participated in the riches of the olive root, do not boast over the branches. So our attitude should not be like the arrogant Jews, the Pharisees and Sadducees in the days of Christ. It should be the very reverse. They were broken off because of unbelief. But you stand by faith. Do not be arrogant, but fear. So, brethren and sisters, we can see we should love the Jew. We should respect the Jew. Respect the Jewish people, for they are God's peculiar treasure. We're going to pick that point up particularly tomorrow morning in the exhortation. But as well as that, the land of Israel is a place that we really love. We should have really deep feelings for that land, for it is Yahweh's land. It's the chosen place to put His name. 21 times in the Bible that said, 7 plus 7 plus 7. We should pray for the peace of Jerusalem. It's the habitation that Yahweh loves. Mount Zion, which He loves. He loves the gates of Jerusalem, and so on. The Bible's full of it. God's attitude to it. So what should be ours? We should love the land of Israel. It's the centre of our hope, brethren and sisters. It's the centre of our hope. Well, now let's look particularly at that Jewish people. What do we know? Well, it's interesting because this year, or late last year, the number of Jews in the land, Jews, not those who are citizens of Israel, but Jews who are citizens of Israel, passed the 6 million mark. Yes, the nation of Israel is 7.7 million. But the number of Jews is 6 million, past the number that died in the Holocaust. Compare that with other countries. USA, 5.5 million. France, and so on. So you see, the population has come to a very significant figure. But you see, where are they coming from now? They are coming now from France. Look, anti-Semitism, graffiti with swastikas and such like in France. So worldwide immigration to Israel has stagnated. But it's not happening from France. French Jews are bucking the trend. 3,200 came to Israel last year. 63% hike from that area since 2012. They're coming in. Coming from other different countries than what they used to do. And here they are at Haifa Airport. Delighted. Not Haifa, Tel Aviv Airport. And there they're delighted to be in Israel, where that's not happening. And so you can see the population in Israel is now that, early this year, passing that which is in USA, exceeding that which is in the area of America. So we can see the changes that are taking place. Now let's centre our attention on Ezekiel 38 just for a moment. What do we know? Well, we know this very well. Ezekiel 38 says to us they're going to dwell in the mountains of Israel, in the midst of the land. And so they've got to control the West Bank. As well as that, Israel dwells safely and confidently, repeatedly stated within Ezekiel 38. So they've got to be dwelling in a situation where they feel safe with their neighbours. Strangely. And they're without walls. They will not be the walls that are built around the land of Israel. That's got to change. As well as that, they've got to be rich in silver and gold. Her economy has got to be strong and powerful. As well as that, she is a large exporter of agricultural products to the world. And finally, we're going to look at the Tarshish nations, which will support Israel when Russia comes into that Middle East. But now, we know dramatic things are happening in Europe. We could talk extensively about that. We know Brother Thomas said, when Russia makes its grand move for building up of the image empire, brothers and sisters, he says, the end is nigh. Russia has moved into Crimea. It's moving massive amounts of troops into a country called Khalistan, right on the borders of Poland. It's having an influence causing civil war in the area of Moldavia. It's causing chaos in Herzegovina. Our papers haven't got it in it. Only Crimea. Time is short. What about Israel? Well, we know that in Leviticus chapter 25, almost our daily readings, it says that there is a period that God is interested in, the Jubilee period. A period which is 7 Sabbaths of years, so that we don't miss the point, 7 times 7, or 49 years. 49 years, 7 months, 10 days. Now you take that period. From the writing of Eureka, brought us to 1917, the establishment of the State of Israel, or the promise of the State of Israel, the Balfour Declaration. And again, from that Balfour Declaration, we add 49 years. Where do we come to? The 6-Day War. Almost exactly to the very day they got Jerusalem. 49 years, 7 months, 10 days from the date of the Balfour Declaration. What's going to happen, brothers and sisters, 49 years from now? We don't know. We know the time is short. We know Russia's on the move. We know this, that God will send His Son at a time you know not. But we know it's going to be significant. The time is super short. We need to be preparing. And that's a key part of our message tonight. Look at Israel, see what's happening, and realise that time is very short for all of us. We cannot fritter away that time. We've got to centre our attention on that book, the Bible, on the truth, and prepare ourselves for the kingdom. Well, let's have a look at those key points we looked at. Israel controlled the West Bank. That's what the scriptures tell us. Now let's have a look at what we've just read. Look at verse 8. And what did verse 8 say to us? It said to us that after many days thou shalt be visited, and thou shalt come against the mountains of Israel. Alright? So they will come against the mountains of Israel, where the Jewish people are. And further down, it speaks in verse 12, it says there, to take a spoil, and to take a prey, and to turn thy hand upon the desolate places that are now inhabited, upon the people that are gathered out of nations, which have gotten cattle and goods, that dwell in the midst of the land. Have a look at that word midst. The leading lexiconographer, Gesenius, tells us it means a lofty place, the highest point, the summit. Fourth lexicon says the high point. It's only used twice in the Bible. The other place is in Judges chapter 9, verse 37. And it calls it the middle of the land. But that area where they were in the time of the Judges is described the verse before the top of the mountain. The highest point of the land is the West Bank. The West Bank. So the Bible is telling us that that West Bank area is going to come under Jewish control before Armageddon. Before Armageddon, they will control that area. Now, what's going on now? Well, Netanyahu, coming under pressure from the Americans, is saying we're willing to give up 90% of the West Bank. Yeah, we'll do it. We'll give it up. We'll give up control of it. And not only that, all we'll retain is these little tiny settlements in red along here. And these settlements deep in the land, which are Jewish, will rent the land, will pay the Arabs for it. And what's the Arabs say? No way. No way, we're not even do that. But that's what they're saying at the moment. But let's go back in history. Let's go back a little. If you say it's in the white dots, that's what they had in 1946. After the War of Liberation, they got this area, the white there. Then after the Six-Day War, they got this. See the way it's inexorably moving under the hand of God. And now, what they've been asked to do is give up all of that West Bank. Parts of it they've already built many settlements in. But I want to put these two faces up here. Sharon. He promised to give the West Bank to the Arabs. And almost instantly he died. Well, not died. He went into a coma. And he stayed in that coma for 8 years and died only a few weeks ago. Almost like a warning to Israel. Careful. Remember what happened to him. And then a little later, under American pressure, this fella said, oh yes, we'll give up the West Bank. Yes, said Yitzhak Rabin. Remember what happened to him? He was shot. He was assassinated. So almost like warnings. Don't give that up. It's going to be ours. It's going to be the Jewish people. God is going to make sure they get that. And so, what are we seeing now? Well, I'd just like to show you a little bit about a book that's been written by this lady. She is the senior editor of the Jerusalem Post, a brilliant writer. Her name is Carolyn Glick. And she's just released this book. There's the date. The Israel Solution. And it looks like it's going to have a major impact. What it's saying is we should take the West Bank and give the Arabs there who behave themselves citizenship in Israel. Citizenship in Israel. That's what we should do. So it exposes the flaws, this book, of the two-state policy. Now remember, she's absolutely brilliant writer, extremely well known. And she's calling on Israel's sovereignty for the whole of the land. She says, we should provide the Arabs full civil legal rights of permanent citizenship in Israel. That means, as she says, the Jews that will be in the land of Israel will be about roughly 60 to 70% of the population. The Arabs will be the remaining part. And so this book has come out. There it is. There she is again. Carolyn Glick's idea is Israel formally to incorporate the West Bank into its sovereign territory and govern it as part of a single state. And that's proposed now. And it looks like it will have a major impact. So, brothers and sisters, what should we expect, whether it's through the influence of that book or whatever? Israel will control all the West Bank to the River Jordan before Armageddon. No doubt about it, brothers and sisters. And she's moving toward doing that now. But now, let's come back to our book, Ezekiel 38, and what we expect. Israel's neighbours will not feel able to attack her. It's strange. And as well as that, she will not need a wall around Israel. Well, that's indeed what it says, unwalled villages. And she's dwelling confidently. She's not afraid up until Armageddon. But you see, those walls have been built. There they are. They are running from right at the top, right around here, through the West Bank area, some parts along the Jordan Valley, not along here, because Jordan's fairly friendly towards Israel, but certainly with Gaza all the way down to Egypt. Immense amounts of walls have been built. But the scene is changing in the Middle East at the moment. The scene is changing dramatically at the moment. And one of the things is this. Let's just take a little look at what's been going on. You've probably heard of the Arab Spring. Democracy spreading from one end of the Arab world to the other end. What are the papers saying about that? Winter, spring, call it what you may. The upheaval of the last 3 years have left the Jewish state historical enemies weakened, while Israel goes from strength to strength. That's not a Jewish paper. Israel may well emerge as the only real winner of the Arab Spring. And that's the way it's looking. We'll look at that in a minute and see how true that is. But even the Arabs within Israel, citizens of Israel, are beginning to see that point. Here is an Arab Christian. Quite a large population of Christian Arabs live in the West Bank, or live in Israel, who are citizens of Israel. This religious leader is pushing like mad the Arabs, the Christian Arabs, to do what? Israel's Arabic-speaking minorities are changing in a profound way. Consider the Christian community. The 300% rise in Christian Arabs enlisting in the Israeli army. They can see the safest place to be is Israel. 300% increase of Arabs joining the Israeli army, and as well as that, the Druze population joining the Israeli army. They can see madness on every side. Only safe places here, Israel. We better make sure it's secure. As well as that, Israel, of course, is making progress in its weaponry. It has developed a missile called the Iron Dome, exceedingly successful. It analyses the missiles coming towards Israel, logs their path. If it's going to hit a house or some building, it sends a missile up to get it. If it's going to fall in open fields, it lets it go. But they haven't stopped there. Next year, they said they will have produced a laser device that will hit missiles in outer space. Iran, via missiles, will burn it out in outer space. Will make it dead, so it will not be able to do what you want. How long? They reckon next year. It'll be ready in a year from now. As well as that, they're producing another type of missile called the Arrow 3, which will hit missiles in outer space. Israel is feeling very confident in their own might. That's what we would expect. So Israel is to dwell in peace. Confident in their own might. Are they? Well, what does that mean to us? Well, let's listen to somebody we know. Here we are, Eureka. The return of security and prosperity to this tent. That's a term Brother Thomas uses from Isaiah, referring to the land of Israel. Must either precede the development of the one Yahweh, that's us, or be concurrent with the operations in the recesses of Teman or Sinai, or maybe in progress both then and before. So he says this: Israel will dwell in peace maybe just before Christ returns, or slightly afterwards. Is it moving toward that now? My word it is. My word it is. Another proof that the time is very short. Now let's look at the Arab nations around. Let's start to the south, Egypt. Egypt returns to military rule. That's what's taken place. This man, many years ago, 2011, got kicked out, Mubarak. He was a military ruler. He ran it well. He formed a deal, treaty with Israel, and Israel felt relatively confident with him there. He was indeed somebody they could trust somewhat. But he got kicked out. And another power got elected in, which is the Muslim Brotherhood, a religious group that the Saudis say is a terrorist group. And now the Egyptians are saying that's a religious group that came in. And what do? They started to shift that country away from operating toward the west, got affiliated with Iran, began to affiliate with all the terrorist groups, and the economy began to collapse. In result, the people had protests. Here's a protest, again in Tahrir Square, but look at the date. And they are protesting about the Muslim Brotherhood. They don't want it. They want to get rid of it. The economy's in a mess. So he got kicked out. Only last year. And now the situation is that this man is in control, and he is going to go to the country very shortly, about 6 months' time. We'll more on that in a minute. He is part of the army group that Mubarak was associated with. So the old order is back in place. Here's the new leader, General al-Sisi. And they had a constitutional vote just a little while ago, whether they should have the Muslim Brotherhood in or not, and it got voted out, dramatically voted out at that time. The people went to the polls, 98% of those who voted said, we don't want them. We've seen enough of them. We've had it. We want to see Sisi, el-Sisi, the same thing as Mubarak back, and our economy in a better shape. So Egypt has changed dramatically. And this man is now saying, all right, I came in by force, I will put my name up to be voted in just a short time. He will run for the president in roughly 6 months' time. And so we can see the changes that are happening in that area. Dramatic changes that are taking place. But now, the Muslim Brotherhood were affiliated with the Hamas in Gaza, supporting terrorists, supporting missiles being fired at Israel. So here's Gaza, right? And they allowed tunnels to be built under the wall here into Gaza, through which missiles could be transported, and weapons and guns and you name it. Here's a sort of an example of the tunnel. So, now the Hamas is in. The Hamas had been supporting the Muslim Brotherhood, sent 3,000 soldiers in to support them. They're out. They're out. And now, 80% of the tunnels, and now it looks like almost all of them, have been destroyed. So let's look at the Gaza Strip a bit more closely. Here's Israel. Here's the Gaza Strip. There it is. And we can see the wall that Israel has. They're not going to get anything across there that Israel doesn't want, but they were getting it through here, through that area there. They had at one point 1,200 tunnels moving equipment, largely for terrorist purposes, into the Gaza Strip. Bringing stuff from Iran, bringing stuff from the Al-Qaeda group into that area. Those tunnels have mostly been destroyed. Now the Egyptian army has been in there, they've gone through that area and they've destroyed these tunnels. Now, as well as equipment coming in, they brought in things that people wanted, like petrol and such like, and they put taxes on it, the Hamas did, and that money was used to pay for the government officials running the Hamas, which is a terrorist organisation. No doubt about it. So now only approved goods get into Egypt, into the Gaza Strip. The Hamas can't easily get terrorist weapons in. They're getting a bit, but not much. The Hamas can't tax the tunnels, and the Egyptian military decision has stopped the tunnels, and the Hamas now is poorer by 230 million each month. They're in a really bad way. They've only got a little while before things are going to collapse in that area. So it looks. So Hamas faces financial crisis, real crisis in that particular area. One, international support. Hamas is struggling to pay the salaries of government officials. It's a real mess. So, there is a new triangle of alliance that's formed. The triangle is Egypt, Israel, and strangely, seemingly on the surface, Hamas. It hasn't lasted the last few days. More on that in a minute. But Hamas started to speak much more friendly towards Israel. Began to get more supportive of Israel. That hasn't lasted. But now the situation is this, that Abbas is seeking money. Abbas runs the Palestinian organisation in the West Bank. And the Gaza Strip's got the potential. Look at this. Off there, they found oil some time ago. The company that found it was British Gas. But Russia's moved in and said, we'll exploit it. But the licence is held by Britain. Britain has said for a long time, tidy up your act and you can be well off. What's to happen in the Gaza Strip? Let's have a listen to Brother Thomas. Here's Brother Thomas writing well before the Gaza Strip even formed. In those days he called it the coast, the Philistine coast, or the coast of Palestine. He said the power that comes into possession, we'll look at this later, of Tyre and Zidon, and all the coasts of Palestine will be Edom, Moab, Ammon, and is the great latter-day antagonist of Gog. Who's the antagonist? Britain. The Commonwealth will be affiliated with the coast of Palestine and will become a stable entity. Now, incidentally, you may wish to quote those quotes down, but afterwards, if you haven't been given one, I've got a sheet with all the various countries around Israel and addresses where Brother Thomas has commented about them. You can read them up at length yourself and see what happened. He wrote that before he had the newspapers we had and the events we had to see what's going on. All he had was the Bible. And he's been repeatedly robbed. So I believe with confidence you can look at many of those quotes and work out what's going to happen. And I'm moving down that line consistently tonight. Well, let's move on. So we're still talking about the Gaza Strip. Oh, the Russians suddenly shoot down and say, we want to arm Egypt. We'll give you the weapons. The Americans have been backing away from it. The Egyptians, not helping them. And suddenly down comes Mr. Putin. There he is, talking with El-Sisi and saying, we'll supply the weapons you need. We'll look after you. Now that the Muslim Brotherhood's out, we'll help. And suddenly, only over the last few days, a backflip took place. Obama says to Egypt, yes, we will help. We'll change policies. We'll support you again. Don't you worry, we're behind you. And I believe the aim of that is to make sure Russia doesn't get too big a foothold. Egypt has said, yes, we'll buy Russian equipment, but we will be pro-American, pro-Tash. That's the way we're going. Well, let's move on. We haven't time to spend a lot of time on many of these countries. What about Jordan? Well, Jordan's a wonderful country. It's pro-British. Always has been. Will stay there. And here's why. There he is, King Abdullah. Do you want to see his mum? There she is. Where was she born? Succoth, UK. He's 50% British. Here's his girlfriend, now his wife. Where was she trained? In Western schools. Pro-British. No doubt about it. Pro-British. Through and through. But there's a big problem taking place. Into that area is coming huge numbers of refugees from Syria. Over 600,000 have come into that area. Now, into that area of Jordan. And Jordan's terrified, worried by it. King Abdul has been over and seen Obama. He's gone over and seen Cameron. Apparently he was in tears with them. He said, listen, we're going to lose control of this country. These people are unstable. They could destabilise us at any moment. Take over. Obama said, we'll help. Cameron says, we'll help. And into that area suddenly came American equipment. Now that's dated earlier, but it has continued in there. They're bringing in, they've promised up to 2,000 extra troops into that area in the near future from America. And they're loading more tanks into Jordan at the moment. So the scene is changing. And that is very pro-Western. He's not afraid to be seen together with Netanyahu. Jordan's King Abdul seems to have weathered any direct challenge to his rule. And anti-government protests in Jordan have been smaller than elsewhere. And he's very closely tied to Israel. Here's one reason. Israel and Jordan has just signed, I've got the date there, it's only about a month ago, signed a $500 million deal, and Israel will supply natural gas to Jordan. They don't have to get it from Egypt. which is so unpredictable. So many people have blown up the pipeline coming in. So Israel is now to supply that from the Tamar natural gas field. It will start 2016. 2 years' time, they'll be selling it to Jordan. So things are changing dramatically in that area. But you see, this area's got to dwell in peace. It's something that comes from Stratfor, which is a very reputable reporter on the Middle East. Not a very clear picture, but see that darker red thing there? What is he talking about? He says Israel to create a buffer zone in Syria. Israel is using the current unrest in Syria as an excuse to create 2 buffer zones. We'll talk about the other one in a minute. The first buffer zone between Syria and Jordan, there. They're encouraging the moderate Arabs, often Christian Arabs, to come and live along the borders of Jordan, and as we'll talk about later, the borders of Israel. They don't want to get murdered in the fighting up here, so they say, come down here. And generating a more moderate group along those 2 borders. As well as that, we have Saudi Arabia, pro-Tarshan, pro-Commonwealth. Well, at the moment it's gone because of Obama's name. Hadn't gone and seen the Russians. But again, Obama has swung back recently. More on that in a minute. And he is also swinging back quite quickly. So let's have a look at it. Saudi Arabia, King Abdul demands an end to the violence in Syria. They says we give no support to the Syrians. We gave money before, no more, no oil. We're going to remove our ambassador. We're not supporting anything going on in Syria. Now Muslims, too bad. As well as that, Saudi Arabia urges Israel to attack Iran. They're pointing out these nuclear facilities, and they've been begging America to eliminate them. Get rid of them. Too dangerous. And things are beginning to change. This cartoon picks that up. Here's the ex-leader in Iran, which we know. He's now gone, but while that was going on, this cartoon was written. What nukes? We're not making nuclear weapons. Why would we want nuclear weapons? That's what the Iranians are saying. Wanting them to attack Israel and America. That's what everybody thinks. But Obama's trying to placate them, calm them down. And then he's saying, see, sitting down with these guys works. He's been negotiating with them. And Netanyahu tells us that the negotiation is foolish. It's only placating, giving them time to develop more weapons to attack Israel if possible. So, Israel said to be working with Saudi Arabia on an Iran strike plan. Fly across Saudi and hammer Iran, if need be. If need be. And it may well be so in the end. Well, let's move on. David Cameron, he's tying himself up with Saudi Arabia significantly. Saudi Arabia is Britain's biggest trading partner in the Middle East. So you see, they're tying up closely. The Arab countries in there are pouring money into Britain. The latest Milestones magazine stated very clearly that Britain is beginning to boom because of the Arab money being poured into Britain. It's progressing faster at the moment than France and Germany. Amazing. But now it's Syria. Israel's enemy destroying itself from within. And surely it is utter chaos within its border. Look at Homs. Damascus in places not much better. Chaos going on. The UN finally, after many people have been killed. February this year, 200,000 killed in there. Finally got a peace deal. We've got a few people out. They went into Homs and here's one little poor girl. And a few other people taken out. It's terrible what's going on. Cripples. Getting them out so they don't get wiped out by their leader, Assad, who wishes to wipe out that community, who has got the rebels in their midst fighting to topple the Syrian government. And so we can see the situation going on there. It is a terrible, terrible mess in the area of Homs up here. and central Syria. And Israel, what's it saying? It's saying to Syria, you be careful, don't you dare cross our borders. I'm warning you, if the Syrian army starts to get silly towards Israel, we will act. And that warning must be quite severe because they know Israel is very potent, very powerful with its weapon. Don't test our red lines, he says, or we will respond to you, Syria. So the situation is chaotic, but look what Israel's doing. 700 so-called terrorist rebels have gone to Israel for medical treatment, crippled, been hit, bullets gone through them here and there. They're hurt, damaged in the fighting. And Israel's accepting them and putting them into hospital and treating them. Hundreds are being treated and then sent back just across the border. Here's another article talking about one particular area, another 120 killed or helped by the Israelis. They're showing a very kindly spirit, as they really always have. And so what they're developing is a community along the Golan Heights, a second buffer zone, 60 kilometres long, who are pro-Israel. Pro-Israel. That's Stratfor, one of the world's leading commentators on what's going on in the world scene. Here's another commentator. It's talking about the area being polarised into various religious groups. So here would be the Sunnis, the chaotic Shiites, the Kurdistans up here, the Alawites up here, and the Druze, more Christian groups down there. On the borders of Jordan, the borders of Israel. And there seems to be developing a polarisation in Israel. We don't know what's going to happen. That's the way it's moving at the moment. Very fascinating. What about Iran? Ally of Russia? We know that from Ezekiel 38. Dangerous threat to the free world. Very dangerous. And so things are happening there. The UN, Europe, America has gone over talking to the Iranians. There's Rouhani, the new key negotiator on Iran's part. And here's the American Kerry talking to them. And here's how Israel says it. Yeah, they signed a deal. There it is. Oh, wonderful deal. One step, a long way to go to bring peace for what they're doing. Well, Netanyahu heard of the deal that they'd signed. This is a couple of months ago. And this is how the newspaper in Israel reported it. There's Netanyahu. Netanyahu a little unhappy. Like a bomb going off. And he certainly did. He told America they're utterly foolish. He's told them that if they don't look out, very shortly there'll be suitcase bombs in America. They may not build the nuclear weapons in the time they want, but he says, you look out. You'll have real problems there in America. He's warning them seriously. And it's beginning to be heard. But Iran's not changing. Iran sends warships on the coast of America. Look at the date. Only a month ago. After the peace deal had been signed. She sends warships to intimidate America. Iran's military fleet is approaching the United States border. And this move, says the Iranians, has a message. Go our way or look out. Don't follow Israel's advice. Iran escalates military threats against the US. It says to them, you've got bases in the Middle East, look out, we can destroy them. We can destroy them. And so things are moving quickly. Iran tests, fires ballistic missiles. They have missiles capable of hitting Israel. And if so, I believe they go into orbit. And so they should be able to also go to America. Britain has told her parliament. Now, 2 years ago, they had missiles that could hit Britain from outer space. So they have that part developed. All they need now is the nuclear weapons for it. And they are threatening the West. Look at this. Iranian general, date March the 11th. Our hands are on the trigger to destroy Israel. It's not going to happen. We know that. We know that can't happen. Iran's military has its figure ready, they are saying. And there's the general speaking. So things are changing dramatically in the Middle East. But Israel had a coup after sorts, a success. What happened was, the Iranians got hold of a ship, sent it over here to, got equipment, built in Syria, so it couldn't be labelled as coming from Iran. Flew the equipment and missiles down to here, at the same time flew a lot more back into Syria, so a swap, but they had labels on them built in Syria. Loaded aboard a ship, a Panamanian ship, so it wasn't an Iranian ship, sailed it down here and brought it up the Red Sea. And only a little while ago, they intercepted that ship. The Israelis, Mossad, the Secret Service, said it had missiles on board. They intercepted that ship. There it was, and it contained a huge number of missiles that could hit Israel. Those, I think it was 40 missiles that could hit Israel, destined for the Gaza Strip. And I believe they wanted it there for a particular date. I'll tell you why in a minute. It could fly 120 kilometres, it could hit Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, and it put 5 million people's lives in jeopardy. Israel intercepted, there's the missiles. There's Netanyahu speaking in front of these huge missiles that they were going to send, very accurate ones, into the Gaza Strip. Mossad followed it. They got hold of the Americans and told them what was going on. And it seems to have made Obama switch somewhat. So he's not so pro making a deal with Iran. He's starting to be a bit more realistic. Also, probably what Russia's done is helping him to wake up to where he's going. You see, here's an interesting particle. Will the Ukraine crisis spill over into the Middle East? What the Debka is saying is that Russia would like things to be chaotic in the Middle East for a little while, so it can get away with more up in the area of Ukraine. Well, we'll have to remain to see, but Israel is acting to make sure that doesn't go down that line. Let's look then at Iraq. Iraq, crazy place. Life and death contest between the Shiites and the Sunnis. Hardly a week go by without blowing up another 30 or 40. Shiites versus Sunni, and up to the north, a bit more stable, the Kurds. And there it is, a crazy thing. Life and death. The most deadly Middle East conflict is Shia versus Sunni. Now that shouldn't surprise us, because we read Brother Thomas. Look what Brother Thomas said many years ago. He said this, the Herald that he wrote, the Herald of the Kingdom in Coming Age, the Shiites of Persia, that's Iran, Iraq, and the Sunnis of Turkey hate each other with a hatred not exceeded by that with which the Orangemen and the Romanists of Ireland hate each other. Where did terrorism begin? In Ireland. Said it'll spread. These fellows will do the same. And he says there'll be a contest over Baghdad. Brother Thomas's words. Amazing. Utterly amazing. But time's rushing away. Lebanon. A home for all the chaotic groups. Yes, they're all there trying to live together. But they reckon the Hezbollah, just north of the border, has 170,000 rockets threatening Israel. Israel's ability to deter enemies, says Israel, is strong. We have the missiles, Iron Dome. We can knock them out. And they said to Hezbollah, you do that, it won't succeed. We will, and you will suffer. So things are moving in that area. Divided Lebanon has identity crisis. Saudi Arabia's gone up and said to them, to the army, the more stable element, here's $3 billion for your army. Control the Hezbollah, the terrorists that border Israel, now fighting most of them in Syria. But you see, that area's got to be stable too. There's Lebanon. See that area there? Look at this. Now it's Lebanon's too. For what? What they are saying, the star-studded list of international energy companies have expressed interest in bidding for acreage in Lebanon. Look at the names. Exxon, Mobil, Chevron, Rosneft, Total, Statoil, and so on. 52 companies have asked Lebanon, can we hunt for oil just north of Israel? Look what Israel's found. We're sure it goes into your country. If you let us hunt for oil in your area, you'll be rich. Stabilise your country. And 52 companies are begging to hunt for it off Lebanon. You could be well off. What does the Bible say going to happen? Well, let's again look at Brother Thomas. The area of Tyre and Sidon, just north of Israel's border. Along with the coast of Palestine, we looked at that before, with Edom, Moab and Ammon, and remember that's where the Tarshish power will be, Daniel 11, is the great antagonist to Gog. So the enemies of Russia will control Tyre and Sidon before Russia advances, and control the coast of Palestine. That's the Commonwealth countries, primarily Britain. And so we can see the scene has got to change. There's the Middle East, and the Middle East has got to become an area of peace. All our neighbours are preoccupied in civil war or chaos, and are re-looking at their relationship with Israel. Things are swinging. It may not swing immediately, but it's moving in that direction. Amazing. But now let's come back to where we were. It's got to be rich in silver and gold. Her economy's got to be mighty strong. It's interesting, young people. When you get out of high school in Israel, you go straight into the army for 3 years. You are trained to fight. And one of the things they're training the smartest of the young people is to make decisions rapidly. They say they won the 1973 war because of one of two things. One of them was, one of the young men made a decision in 1 second, and it saved his tank, and he worked out by that movement he made, it saved his tank and told Israel how the Arabs were shooting or destroying tanks in the Yom Kippur War. He made the decision in a matter of a second. They are now training their children, the young ones they say, to come up with up to 8 joint decisions in 3 seconds. But the effect of it is this. When they come out of the army, they go into business. They can't understand it. These young people seem to be able to make up decisions about business so quick. No surprise, is it? So they call it the Startup Nation. That's a book. The Startup Nation. Now look at these figures. It's breathtaking. The leading nation in the world for research and development? Israel. For flexibility and adaptability in industry? Israel. For entrepreneurial managers? Israel. Availability of scientists and engineers? Israel. For available money? USA. But then Israel. Why Israel? Because people are investing in it. Information technology? Israel. Top of the world. Listen to this. It is just breathtaking. Startup nation. Israel has the highest density of tech startups in the world. 2.5 times USA, 30 times Europe, 80 times India, 300 times China. Stunning. Absolutely stunning. The tiny nation has more scientists, engineers, startups per capita than any nation in the world. Have a look at these couple of cool guys. They came out of the army. They set up a company, got it running, and then sold it off for a cool 400 million. Only a couple of years later, not bad, not bad. And so it continues. Go and have a look at Google. Here's some of the key guys at Google. Jews. Here's Wikipedia. Here's Facebook. Here's again one of the engineers now, a key engineer in Google now. Computer engineer. They're incredible. Take this gentleman here. Here he is, meeting the President of Israel over in America. There you are. Google co-founder lauds Israel's innovation in technology. Of course he does, he's a Jew. Jews top the world in their discoveries. Incredible. Just recently I put on my phone this. Bible. Where did it come from? Israel. What does it mean? I can go on and put a toll call anywhere in the world for free. Guess what? They just sold it. The newest billion-dollar seller. Well, it wasn't quite. 900 million. Maybe you can value in Australian dollars, it's a billion. But there it is. Incredible. Incredible. Jewish young people developing it dominantly. It doesn't surprise us really, because let's take the Arab world and think for a minute. There's a Nobel Prize, right? There's your medal, your winner. Do well at high school? There you go. Okay. Here's what the Arabs have got. 1983, one for literature. 1978, another one for peace. I don't think he deserved it, but he got it too. Yasser Arafat. Okay? And chemistry. The Arabs, they've got 4. Now we'll have a look at what the Jews have got, shall we? Oh well, there we are. They're in literature, peace, and now in economics, and now in medicine, and now in, well, by 2000, they had that many. By 2013 last year, 193 of the 855 Nobel Prizes came from the Jewish people, not all from Israel. So 22% of all the prizes goes to Jews, who are 0.2% of the world's population. If the Jewish population was the same as the Arabs, then the Jews would have had 4,135 Nobel Prizes. It's stunning. It's stunning. And their development is incredible, but it's not just there where their money's coming from. Of course, we know massive finds of oil. Massive finds of oil. They used to say, oh, Moses made a mistake when he came into the land. When he came up along the Jordan, he should have turned right into Saudi Arabia, not left into Israel, and then we would have the oil fields. Not anymore. Massive oil fields off the coast of Israel. Incredible finds. Some of the largest finds found anywhere in the world in the last 10 years are in Israel. Israel is now believed to have more oil than Saudi Arabia, and it has the largest gas field found in the last 10 years. And guess who's bought into it? Woodside. South Australia, it's a town in South Australia called Woodside. It's now a Western Australian company. It bought into it, mere 2.5 billion to the Jews. And they got the deal over the Americans, over the Russians, because they knew how to drill offshore safely. And they are moving in to help Israel. It doesn't stop there. Weapons. Look at the rate it's going up. They got Egypt to launch a missile. Not Egypt, India, because it's in the equator. It's cheaper to do it on the equator because it's spinning faster. And the Egyptians said, can we have a look at this missile satellite? They said, sure. They had a look at the satellite, and they cancelled this a few years ago, a $2.6 billion deal with Russia, and returned it to Israel. And Israel is now dominantly building the weapons for India. They can see that. It's so good. So good. But the scriptures is clear. Israel is economically to boom because of, doesn't say that, but we know that. Brilliant technology, natural resources, huge exports. And as well as that, they've got to be rich in cattle and goods. A land of agriculture. Russia comes down. What for? One of the reasons is food. Food. Israel produce delegation heads to Berlin. Last year they sold 1.2 billion worth of food into that area, or into the world. We sell 30 billion. Just do the sums. It's around about where they export about a 20th of what we do. They've got lots of desert like we have, but we are 350 times bigger, 380 times bigger. Staggering what they do. But look where they send it to. Who gets it most? Europe? Russia. Russia can't feed itself. Buys stuff from Israel. Little wonder when they come south, one of the things they're after is food. Food. So Israel's agricultural exports are booming. Booming. No doubt about it. And lastly, the Commonwealth support. We know the merchants of Tarshish have got to be with Israel. Here's Britain. Israel trade with UK. Export to UK that. And imports from UK, well, it's one of the biggest, but not the biggest. Of course Israel's so tiny. So tiny. But look what it exports to Israel, to Britain. Huge amounts. And here's been the changes over the last year or so. So it's increasing. Their links with Britain are growing. And Britain seems to be changing. Anti-Semitic incidents recorded in Britain have fallen to the lowest annual level since 2005. Anti-Semitic signs, Britain is changing. They're seeing what the Arabs are like. They're seeing what Israel's like more clearly, of course they are, after the Arab Spring. And now, just a day or two ago, he landed in Israel for the first time since he became Prime Minister. He'd been there before, but now he's gone over there and he went to the Knesset and spoke. He shared Israel's deep scepticism about Iran. I share your scepticism and concern. I understand your fears. He said his support for Israel is unbreakable. And we know that's going to be true. Whose belief in Israel is unbreakable. Whose commitment to Israel's security will always be at rock solid. That's what he said. But I believe the Arabs were going to test him. And at that very time, out of the Gaza Strip, the homemade missiles, not the high quality ones, thank goodness, were fired into Israel 3 days ago. 60 missiles. Here's where they came from. Here's where they were hit, or they hit. They didn't do anything. Didn't kill anybody. Didn't hurt anybody. The Iron Dome missiles logged those missiles as they came in and saw that only 2, or was it 3, could hit anything that was done that could hurt someone, and sent missiles up and knocked them out. But I believe the aim of it was to make a statement to Cameron. The Arabs were trying to make a statement to him. And trying to say, this is our land. You should be telling Israel to get out. But it did the opposite. It did the very opposite. But there's been a change also around the world. We know this man, Mr. Abbott. Unspinning support for Israel. Labor's out, Nationals in, and that's their policy. Tony Abbott and Julia Bishop intend to reverse the anti-Israel direction in Australia's voting pattern in the UN. This is an immensely important sign of the coalition government values and directions, said the Australian. A complete flip. So they're supporting them. As well as that, this man is the Prime Minister of Canada, Stephen Harper. He went to the Knesset and spoke. He is openly pro-Israel, exceedingly pro-Israel. He says, we are a great friend of Israel, has been for a long time. This is why that was the welcome he got. A red carpet. Red carpet. Maybe Mr. Abbott might get that shortly, but be that as it may, a red carpet welcome into the Knesset for Canada. Incredible. So the things are changing, brothers and sisters. But our time is really gone. Let's just recap for a minute before we look at that. The time is really gone for also us as we look out on the world scene. How long is it going to be? When Russia makes its grand move for building up its image empire, brothers and sisters, be prepared. Israel looks like it's in a position where it could fulfill all of the 638. Sure, there will be bounces, things will go negative for a while here and there, but ultimately it will be fulfilled, as we know from Scripture. And it's coming fast, very fast. And so, brothers and sisters, what should we be doing? Well, our love should be for Israel and that land and the future. There it is, the glory of all lands. A beautiful land, a glorious land, our land. And we look forward to the time when we will go up from year to year, from wherever we're living, with a community, to that temple, that we might enter into fellowship with Christ and with all the saints there who are immortal there, and also allow those who go with us to learn of the truth and learn of the greatness also of Israel that will be reformed. We'll talk about that in the Exhort on Sunday. And we will see that land, a beautiful land, a glorious. And so, let us love Israel and the land. It's the centre of our hope. But finally, remember, brethren and sisters, time is short. What does it mean for all of us? This is what Jesus said. Jesus Christ, in his last major prophecy that he said on the earth, the Olivet prophecy, he said this: "But of that day and hour knoweth no man." You cannot, cut up fire with the return of Christ. You've got to be working to do the right thing all the way along the line. And he says the answer to it is watch. See what's happening in the world. Stir yourself up to be in that Bible and studying, at Bible classes, at the memorial meeting, loving the truth with all your heart. Therefore be ye also ready. For in such an hour you think not the Son of Man cometh. Can't be far away. The Lord of that servant will come when he looketh not for him, and an hour he is not aware of. Let's make sure we're not like that one. Watch, therefore. There's the answer. Be like the 5 faithful virgins, for you will know the day and the hour then. We've got to be like that, brothers and sisters. And so finally, as Luke said, or Christ said in Luke 21, there shall be upon the earth distress of nations. Crimea, the areas of Europe today, parts around Israel, Syria, the state of perplexity, no answer so far as the world's concerned. Men's hearts failing them for fear. Iran could be sending off dirty bombs in America. Could send them here. Who knows? Chaos. He says, very finally, when these things begin, I think they're more than begun, but when they begin to come to pass, he says, brother and sister, lift up your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh. It's not far away, brothers and sisters. So let us be prepared. Let us be people who are focused in the things of the truth and preparing for Christ's return. Thank you.